Okay, hello everyone, and this time we'll do another review of a tank. Yes. What else would you do a review on? In what of tanks? Now, the tank that we'll be doing here is the Panzer I, which is a Tier 2 German. Light tank, not premium, not anything. It's a regular tech tree variant of the Panzer I. Now, start off 160 hit points, which is not not great, but it is only tier 2 after all. T26 has 180, 160 for T1E6, 210 for the Panzer II-D, 170 for the Panzer II, Universal Carrier 120, Light 6C 150, J 170. So yeah, it's in the low end of the tier 2 health pool, but it is only tier 2 after all. So yeah, what do you expect from the hit points there? I only weigh 6.12 tons with my current loadout, with 8 ton of load maximum for our Panzer I here, and it only has a 100 horsepower engine. But for the weight, what is the power to weight ratio here? Let me find it. 16.34 specific horsepower per ton. So yeah, about 16 ratio. So 100 horsepower engine for such a light tank is all right. It's not going. It isn't such that much of a problem because after all, it is only so light. Panzer II has pretty much the same. It has slightly better horsepower per ton with 16.65. Panzer II-D has a 12.73, which is very bad. T26 13.44, which isn't great. Very good for the T1E6. 26.73, which is very good. Light 6C, 16.6. Vickers, can't stop moving. 13.44, so... And then let's just look at the Universal Carrier. The Universal Carrier is a pretty light tank. Once the thing stops, can't stop moving. Let me... come on. There you go. 20.24. So... yeah, it has a pretty standard horsepower per ton ratio for such a light tank. 40 kilometers an hour top speed with its 100 horsepower engine here, which is pretty good. It's the same speed as the Panzer II. Universal Carrier has 8 kilometers an hour more. Yeah, T26 is worse. 48.3. 52. No, I don't want to purchase anything. Go away. Right, there you go. VA Type B is 35 kilometers an hour. So yeah, it's a fairly fast light tank, the Panzer I, with 38 degrees per second hold reverse, which is pretty good. The armor, however, is not very good at all. 13 all round on the hull, with 14 at the front and 13 around on the turret. So unless you angle it like this and a shot hits like here, you're not going to bounce anything. Or maybe a shot hits here, right here. That's the only times it'll bounce, or really at extreme angles where it would auto bounce anyway. That's the only time you're gonna really be bouncing stuff from your Panzer I. So yeah, the armor is not very good. After all, it is a pre-war tank. Fairly certain it's a pre-war tank, the Panzer I. As for the gun selection is not very good. You've got the 2cm KWK-30, so the Kampfwagenkanone 30, which is the same as the Panzer II-D's gun, I think. Yeah, there you go. Gun 2cm KWK. So, yeah, without unlocking the top gun on the LOL tractor, you'll be having to use this gun until you research the next gun up, and then the top gun for the Panzer I, which is not very good anyway. So, yeah, 20mm gun, 10 shots in the magazine, 0.21 shell loading time, 3.9 seconds for complete loading, 23 penetration, 46 with APCR, 11 damage, 0.59 dispersion, which is incredibly bad. 1.7 seconds aiming time, 70 weight, shooting radius, so yeah, that gun's not terribly good. The next one up, the Kampfwagenkanone 38. Pretty much the same thing, 20mm, 10 shots in the magazine, 0.13 time for one shell loading, 3.9 seconds for complete loading time, still 23-46 penetration, still 11 damage, still very bad dispersion with 0.57, 1.6 second aiming time, and weight 70. However, the gun that you will be using is this, the 2cm Beretta, which is once again 20mm. However, it has 12 shells in the magazine, firing in shots of 3. So you fire 3, 1, 2, 3, then click again, 4, 5, 6, click again, 7, 8, 9, click again, 10, 11, 12 for the rest of your shells. So yeah, you've got 3 shells in a one magazine, then you have a magazine of 4 of those shells. So yeah, in between firing one burst of 3, it's a 0.25 seconds with a 3.1 second for complete loading. Slightly better penetration with 30 or 46 with APCR. Still the 11 damage, still a pretty bad dispersion with 0.51. Fairly good aiming time with 1.5 seconds and then 70 kilograms weight. So yeah, the Panzer I has got a very bad gun. I would probably prefer to use the twin MG34s that they usually have. They usually have the twin MGs on them. That's probably why I would prefer using rather than this Beretta. The Beretta is not a terribly good gun. It's pretty inaccurate, fairly good aiming time, but yeah, highly inaccurate, pretty poor penetration. 12 shots in the magazine, however. Yeah. What is actually the dispersion for this gun? 0.45. It's not terribly bad. Still pretty bad for the Panzer II's gun, but then the Panzer II's gun actually has the penetration to make up for its bad accuracy. This is just bad accuracy, bad penetration. So yeah, you're gonna have problems penetrating stuff with your Beretta. 165.25 rounds per minute. 2.97 actual gun reload time for me for loading the clip, but 24 degrees per second turret traverse, which is not very good. If we look at the VA Type B's turret traverse, that's 24, and that's pretty bad. So yeah, the turret traverse for your Panzer I is not very good at all. 44 degrees per second, 44, 46, 38, 36, and then 24. So yeah, it's not a very good turret traverse speed at all. View range, however, I've equipped it with coated optics and binocular telescope. So 320 base, 352 with the coated optics, then with the binoculars 400 meters. View range with a 455 signal range. 345, 455. The Germans tend to have pretty good radios. So yeah, the radio range is pretty good for your Germans. I think the Americans beat them on radio range, but yeah, the Germans do have pretty good radio range. So your radio range is fairly alright. Equipment loadout, consumables rather than loadout. You've got your standard stuff there, and then you can only equip 7. You can only equip a choice of 7 equipment. Improved ventilation is always pretty useful. Light spall liner is useless. 14mm at best of armor, useless, don't bother. Camanet I fitted because binocular telescope, I thought why not. Coated optics is always useful. Binocular telescope always also useful. Enhanced gun link drive, what is the 1.5 seconds aiming time, so that is going to be wasted on this tank. Toolbox is always useful as well. Yeah, you got your Tier 7 radio. That's what you got. Your stock engine only has 60 horsepower. So it's only a 60 horsepower engine to power your Panzer I, so you'll be going pretty slowly with that engine, and then 85 and then 100. And yeah, the turrets don't really give anything. The only difference between this one and this one is this one has 10 extra meters of view range. That is the only difference if you look at them. 14, 13, 13, 24, and then 310, and then this one. 14, 13, 13, 24, 320 meters view range. So yeah, the only bonus that this turret gives is the extra health and the increased view range. That's all that. That's what it gives. Only a crew of 2 as well, so you've got your driver here and your commander in here. The commander also doubles as the gunner, radio operator, and loader. The driver is just the driver. So if you're going to get any crew up to 100% first, I would say go for your commander, because without him, all you've got left is a driver. You know, your accuracy will suffer, your loading time, your turret traverse, your radio range, that will all suffer because this guy doubles up as 4 different crew members. So yeah, he has a lot of skills to choose from. I am going Sixth Sense because he is primarily the commander. So yep, I'm going Sixth Sense and safe stowage. Always useful. Adrenaline rush is always useful. Intuition, probably going to benefit this tank if you use APCR because of your subpar penetration on your gun. So intuition is, yeah. Relaying is pretty useful because the Germans have pretty good radio. So yeah, relay. Signal boosting to extend the signal range. Yeah, that's going to be useful to boost up your pretty good signal range. Call for Vengeance as well. Always is a useful thing to have if you want. Situational awareness is always also useful. Snapshot. Your turret doesn't have very good rotation anyway, so I would say no, and the dispersion is already horrible. So no, don't really bother with Snapshot. Deadeye is always useful for autoloaders with guns like the Light 6C, the T1E6, the Panzer II, all of those things that have the autocannons. They are always the useful things. So yeah, Deadeye is always pretty useful. It all depends on whether you can actually penetrate to do damage with your Panzer I as to whether or not that will come in useful. But anyway, Armourer is always useful, but it's already very, very bad accuracy, so Armourer may not be useful. Designated Target is always useful. Eagle Eye is also always very useful. Jack of all trades, yeah, that's also a useful thing to have. However, with this tank, because you've only got 2 crew, it may seem like a waste. Recon is always useful. Mentor I don't really bother with, and then you've got your common skills. And now for your driver. I am going off-road driving to reduce the ground resistance, because you'll want to keep up your speed because you don't have very good armor. Clutch braking is always useful. Preventive maintenance if you keep getting set on fire. Smooth ride, no, don't bother with it. You're highly inaccurate anyway. Driving with this will do nothing for it. Controlled impact, don't bother with that because you don't have very good armor. Anyway, so overall, this tank is not very good at all. This is probably one of the worst tier 2s, I would say. Probably there with the T1E6. But the T1E6 it all depends on how you use it, really. As to how good the T1E6 is, because it's pretty quick, it has pretty good turret and hold reverse. The gun, yes, sure, the gun doesn't have that good penetration, but I mean, you can probably get around the side and rear of the tank. I mean, it all depends on how you use it, and I suppose that's the same as the Panzer I. You could probably actually think of the T1E6 as the American version of the Panzer I. I suppose that's what you could think of it. It has one extra crew for the T1E6, but again, it has a clip-based gun, not very good armor. It's fairly fast. The gun is terrible. So yeah, if you're going to be using the Panzer I, use it as you would a T1E6. However, the Panzer I doesn't do as much damage up front as the T1E6, but it does. Well, let's look at 1,821 average DPM. 1,286 DPM. Wow, that's not very good. But it's only tier 2. I mean, come on. If you combine all the tier 2s on one team, is that really gonna? It's probably going to be less than that. But Yeah, if you're going to be using the Panzer One, use it to flank people. You can sit down and spot for your team like I've set up, but you can't really do the hide, fire from the bushes, get a nice burst into them, and then stay hidden like you can in the Panzer II. Well, sorry, like I can in the Panzer II. You can't do that in the Panzer One because you don't have the good penetration of the 2 centimeter flak. You don't have the 39 or 40 average penetration, which means that you can't really sit in a bush and snipe the way you can in the Panzer II. So yeah, just use it to flank around people and try and not get hit. That's my advice with this tank. So thank you for watching and goodbye.